Is hope in your way? Hi, friends, it's Diane here, and today we are going to talk about hope. And hope is an interesting word because I even wrote a book entitled Hope Realized, a daily meditation journal to help you really live in your hope. And I also realized after talking to many people and working with many different teams that hope can get in the way. And it's an interesting thing. And so I thought we would talk about that today because I think that it's important. It's important for us to realize that there are many ways of looking at everything. There's lots of nuance, there's lots of angles, there are a lot of paradoxes. And so part of our own growth, transformation, and life in general is to become more and more clear, more and more aware, more and more interested in how things work. And so hope is a really good topic to start that here in Someone Gets Me. If you're watching me on YouTube, I haven't been on YouTube for a while. And now we're back with some interesting interviews coming up and some other interesting solo shows coming up. I have lots of things planned. We're making some shifts, so some of our work will be all about the personal stories as we've been doing for the last 5 years. But we're also going to be adding in information, content, and inspiration for teams, for people in the business world trying to make it in these kind of chaotic, weird times. And so I look forward to bringing expanded content to you in ways that really serve intensely sensitive people. That means intensely sensitive, meaning smarter than the average bear, an outlier, somebody who's created and a visionary that also has the intensities and sensitivities of an empath and somebody who knows and sees things beyond others. So, we're going to talk about hope because it affects all of us and it affects people in groups and teams, and it even affects us in our personal life. And so I want to start with a story. And the story is about this woman that I know personally who is working in a corporate situation. And she is looked up to and seen by all of her colleagues and her peers as somebody who is in the know, is competent, and always is there to help in a crisis no matter what. She's been doing this for lots of years. She has a long history, and not only in her career, but also in this particular organization that she's working for currently. Well, one of the things that I've noticed is that in working with her, I start to see that she is really unhappy underneath it all, that she feels taken advantage of, that she doesn't feel or even understand or experience any kind of hope that the company she works for cares about any of them, including their customers. She really believes that the company, the corporate entity, is out for money and doesn't really care about anybody else. Now, maybe that is true. Maybe it is not true. But what I want to talk about is the hope, how that hope that one day that corporation will change and shift. That hope that one day the traumas she's experienced at the hands of these people will stop. That one day being taken advantage of will stop. That one day she will be recognized and her peers will be recognized for the work that they do. That one day. That mix of trust and hope for the future, that maybe if just hold on that one more day, things will change. Hope is getting in her way of forwarding her career. Hope is getting in the way of this person's deep happiness and sense of satisfaction. Hope is getting in the way of her being honest with herself about what's really good for her and stepping into that. So that hope is kind of mixed in the trust in the world and then the distrust for the company. And so, in a corporate situation, when the corporate culture does not support human growth or transformation and is more self-serving maybe and work like a machine, and then when you quit they don't care, And if they do, they don't tell you. And it just goes on and on and on. And so we had a conversation about it. And one of the conversations about the hope that she's feeling is that she doesn't want to abandon her peers. She doesn't want to abandon the people in her world. And what I say is you cannot abandon an adult. And so these are all old ideas that are just running around in her belief systems that hope is keeping her tied to an unacceptable situation in the business world. Hope is keeping her tied because she keeps hoping something's going to be different than it has been for the many years before. She even noted that things are getting worse over time. Interesting, right? But the hope keeps her hanging on to an unacceptable situation. And I see it in other people. I'm working with this gentleman he's really amazing. But he's hoping that his family will be different than they've ever have been, that his parents will finally understand him, that the people around him will finally get it. Now, this person also is very gifted and very smart. And I think his parents are as well. But the situation here is that hope that's holding on to something that is a fantasy, that's not real. Hoping that if I keep engaging with a situation that's not acceptable to me, that somehow it will be different. And somehow I can hope that if they respond in the right way, if they hear me in the right way, that it will erase or dissolve all the previous pains and traumas. It's not how it works. It's just not how it works. Hope is a change agent. It can really help us move forward. Hope is like a catalyst. It can come into a situation, it can come into our consciousness, into our awareness, and really help us expand and help us move forward. So we want to look at hope from that angle versus the chain that holds us to something that's unacceptable, hoping and wishing for something to change magically, and then it'll all be okay. Now that's possible, but not probable, right? It's possible that in these scenarios that the family or the company will change. It's possible. Is it probable? Well, when we have decades of experience of both of these entities doing what they're doing, it's not as probable as we might want to hope that it is. So when you're looking at your own life satisfaction and you're looking at your own happiness or your health, if you're holding on to the hope that people in your life, maybe your family or maybe old friends, are going to change over time, unless they're in a personal transformation journey, they're probably not going to. So you get to decide how you're going to respond. Now, one of the things I do with these family situations is I say, love them from a distance. It does not change your love necessarily, but it can change your boundaries so that your hope doesn't lead you into situations of further distrust, of further difficulty. We don't want that. We want ourselves to be happy and free. If we use hope to hold on to things, right, then what happens is we can create more and more distrust for ourselves. We can end up actually feeling hopeless. Now, I know I have felt that in my life because there have been times where I was hoping that certain people in my world would be different, that one day they would treat me in the way I deserve. One day they would hear me. Just please listen. Hear what I'm really saying. That yearning to be heard by someone who says they love you. We all have that yearning. And not everybody has that yearning fulfilled. And so in my younger years, I would keep going back to the place, hoping that this time I would be heard. This time I would be validated. This time it would be different. And every time I walked away feeling more hopeless because that hope led me right back to the same difficulty over and over, seeking and yearning and searching for something to be different when it wasn't going to be because the other people were not different. Now, as I've grown and changed and transformed over my many decades of working on myself and personal growth and development into something and someone who is quite different than I used to be, that hope and going back to the old, hoping that it's different, doesn't happen. I see it for what it is. I can love everybody from a distance. There is a part of me that still yearns and hopes that there will be a shift. And the rest of me is doing what I call sit and see. I always hold out open the idea that it could happen. Is it probable? No. Is it possible? Yes. So I can hold open that part of me that says, well, if I see or sense or understand a real authentic shift over time, then I might be willing to step into the situation. But until then, I can love them from a distance. I was speaking with somebody recently about this where he's from a country other than the United States and he's here in the United States and he is working on a very important project. And his parents are completely supportive. They want him to be here doing this very important project. They know they miss him. They want to see him. He'll be going to visit them again soon. And they want him to stay and work on his project. That to them is more important, their son's happiness. But then there's extended family, right? There's siblings, there are aunts, cousins, uncles, other people who are chiding this person, who are very upset with this person for abandoning his parents. Hmm. Well, you can't abandon an adult by definition. And his parents are the one most supporting him to follow his vision and his dream because they want their son happy. So you see, we can also get influenced by outsiders that are kind of throwing their belief systems, their ideas on top of a relationship that you already have that is clear and working well. Again, this is where boundaries come in. He's hoping that his extended family will understand. Part of the situation is totally different cultures. Where he's from has one set of culture about family, and the United States has a different one. And so he's caught in the middle of these two cultures, hoping that his family, his extended family, will understand, hoping that he can find a way to make it all work and keep everybody happy. But trying to keep everybody happy is doing what? It's costing him. It's costing him in emotional exhaustion, in doubt, in pain, in fear. And what do you think that's doing to his powerful work here in the United States? What do you think it's doing to his relationships? What do you think it's doing to his inner sense of who he is? Everything is coming into question. There's doubt everywhere, even when he's really clear on his life's mission. So, hope and holding on can lead us to have more doubt and more difficulty. There's a paradox in it, right? And so, we want to understand that the attempts to be hopeful and uplifted and all of those things can also lead to being rejected and not heard. I personally have experienced that numerous times, and it doesn't feel good. In fact, used to go away crying, like, what is going on? Why do I feel more rejected and more upset than I was expecting? Well, because hope raises your vibration. It makes you yearn for the thing. And then when you get slammed or rejected or are outright ridiculed or harmed, depending on all the different scenarios, the pain is even greater because the expectation was high and the response was not just even, it was actually negative. So what happens is over time, we develop a false self. I call it the AI version, right? And so the person I'm working with in the corporate world that's really stuck in this dilemma has developed an AI self, a false self, a person who shows up to work that's really kind of like a robot. Her energy's off. She keeps her wall up, does what she needs to do, smiles on cue, acts on cue. But the real authentic person is deep in there somewhere and not coming out in this unsafe environment. So both the person and the company lose because her authentic creative genius self is stifled to protect herself from further rejection and drama and upset. It's not okay that we have to live like that, right? Same thing with my other person I'm working with and his family. He has to develop a false self in order to be around them and be accepted by them. So the whole time, that hope is digging deeper into more mistrust, more difficulty, developing a way of living, a false AI kind of way of living that is not real in order to make it, survive in the situation, in order to feel okay or maybe accepted, right? And so deep within, both these people are hurting. Deep within their core, their essence is being undermined, all in an attempt to survive in a situation that is harmful and where things are going wrong. So we want to pay attention. If you're in a situation where your authenticity in a healthy way, where who you are in a healthy way is not respected, not cared about, or worse, rejected and ridiculed and put down. If that's happening to you, it is vital. It is very important that you begin to come back into alignment with yourself and realize that, as I've said to both of these people, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. You don't have to stay in an unacceptable situation because you keep hoping it's going to change. If the family, if the company, if the situation has not changed over a long period of time, and there's a corporate culture that takes advantage of their employees, there's a corporate culture where people are mistreated. Unless there's new people that come in and change that culture, it is not going to change. You get to decide what's best for you. So the question is what you're doing for the highest good of all concerned? And the first person to consider here is you. You. If you're looking around your life listening to me right now, thinking, oh my, I'm letting hope get in my way. I'm letting hope give me a fantasy of something that most likely isn't going to happen. What do I need to do for my own benefit? If you have more questions or you want to talk about this more, of course, do a get to know you call. I'm happy to have that conversation because I see it coming up more and more and more. People are yearning to be heard. People are yearning to bring their gifts to the world in a way that's meaningful. We are all here with a heart's desire and a yearning to do good. So, what are you doing with it? Are you hiding that part of you in order to survive the chaos? As an intensely sensitive person, sometimes that's what feels safest, but it erodes us underneath. So I suggest we find safe multiple peer groups that we can be ourselves in. I suggest that we take a stand for what's right and we use our voice in an intelligent manner to serve the greater good. I suggest that we use our hope to focus on creating an amazing future. And just maybe distancing yourself from a toxic family member could serve both of you. Maybe leaving a job or a situation of employment that doesn't serve you does something better for your life in the big picture. Because if the company, if the family pays no consequence and you take the brunt of the pain, they will never change. Because why should they? You're doing their work. That's a whole nother episode, right? Let's just pay attention to our own work and allow everyone to give them permission, right, to do their own work. And if they don't want to do their own work, that's on them, not on you. So I encourage you, friends, to look at the hope in your life. Pay attention. Is the hope that you're feeling and the hope that you're experiencing serving you and moving you in the direction that works? If it doesn't, if it's in the way, because it's keeping you in a toxic relationship or a toxic work environment or a toxic situation of any kind because you're using hope. Like, just maybe it'll be different. Pay attention to the dire consequences that you feel when that happens. Because after all, you're here for you. Because if you don't put that oxygen mask on yourself first, all the beauty and goodness in your heart that you want to bring forward can't come out. You have to take care of you first. And then your beauty blossoms. Then your goodness radiates. Then your heart's desire is fulfilled. So, friends, thank you so much for listening and watching. And I hope to talk to you and connect with you soon. So, remember, in the meantime, put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you because you are a rock star, you know. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. You are here to do magical, amazing things. Don't let anybody tell you differently. And as always, until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, be well.